guys,
I'm Hallee,
and I'm Jamie.
and this is Literal Nonsense.
Hey.
Motherfuckers.
Hey guys, welcome back to Literal Nonsense. So this week we're trying something new. Oh my gosh, I'm so close. So we're going to start recording video to make little teaser trailers for each episode every week for you guys. So go check out our Instagram. They will be on there. And we're also going to make a TikTok for all of those. So we're just expanding over here.
Yeah, we're trying new things, you know?
So we like it. Speaking of new things, Hallie went to go get her matcha with lavender foam.
I was so pissed off. So looking forward to my lavender foam matcha today at Starbucks. And I pull up and and the sign says returning soon. Returning soon.
They just came out with it.
Where the hell did it go? So I'm asking the nice lady, and she was like, "Sorry, hon, we probably won't have it till Wednesday night." Wednesday night? Who the fuck's drinking lavender foam matcha on a Wednesday night?
Speaking of, it's a Sunday right now, so that's far too long.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna have this is stupid. So I had to get the vanilla sweet cold foam,
Which I like that better, to be honest, but I know that you really like the lavender, so it's sad for you.
yeah, I'm actually upset.
But
15,000 on my head is disrespect. So offended that I had to double check.
Hallie's gonna just start rapping and singing every episode, which I'm kind of into. But as I mentioned, today is Sunday, St. Patrick's Day. I have cool socks on.
Wow.
There they are. What else is going on with us? Oh, you finally remembered that book.
Oh yeah. So like, what was that? Episode 3 or 4? Yeah. I was talking about the Hewn City and what it reminds me of, and the book was called The City of Ember, and it's like a YA book, and it's like post-apocalyptic, and these people live underground, and that's the book. In case anyone wanted to know, if anyone was held in suspense.
I thought that she was going to say it 20 minutes later. It's actually 2 weeks later. So here we are. But yeah, so we ended last episode when Feyre and Cassian go to the bone carver. They find out, what he wants in order to fight for them. We find out a little bit more about Nesta, and that's where we left off. And so this episode, as we mentioned, we have the much anticipated visit to Hewn City and also the High Lords meeting, which gets absolutely bonkers.
It's a big debacle.
It is. And so we're starting off this episode right after we get back from the bone carver, so not much of a break. And so they get back from the bone carver and Feyre visits her sisters. So now Elaine just starts saying some weird shit. I'll give you an example.
She's like not okay.
No, she's sitting there and she goes, "I can see so very far now, all the way to the sea." And you're like, okay. And she's like, "I can hear the sea, even in my dreams, and the screams of a bird made of fire." And you're like, is she okay? Like,
it's giving American Horror Story Asylum.
Yes. So they're like, okay, Elaine, you're moving to the townhouse now because we can't leave you up here.
You're on a 24-hour watch.
Right. And so her and Nesta are going to move down to the townhouse. And Nesta's like, "Oh, by the way, I made the cauldron give something back. Like, I was so pissed that I stole something from it, like power." And so Feyre's just like, shit. Like, why are the two of you such a problem? And
can anyone be normal around here?
Right. She's like, "I thought I was the problem child." And these two are just horrible.
Hi, it's me.
Sing again. Keep up.
I'm the problem. It's me. I don't even think those are the words.
The fact that you're saying Taylor Swift is scaring me. We could have a lot of Swifties. Don't insult
Oh,
Swifties.
Sorry.
It's a big population.
All hail T Swift.
And so they get down into the townhouse, and Elaine goes with Azriel into the garden, and she's like kind of
eye roll,
opening up to him, or she's
major eye roll.
Yeah, she's receptive to him, which
she's receptive to him. She only talks to him.
Right, as I'm saying.
Why?
I don't know.
Ew.
I mean, you also would only talk to him. So don't judge her. You are her.
No, don't you ever say that again. I am not Elaine.
No, she definitely is not. And so
Hell no.
Feyre's like, damn, like, why can't they just be mates? And Rhys is like, because they're not, first of all. And then he's like, but listen, you can reject a mating bond. And so we learn more about that. And so we learn that there is free will, thank God. And he basically says, mates came about, no one really knows why. But it could even just be, oh, they're a match for power, to create strong offspring. So we kind of learn more about the mating bond.
Weird.
And that maybe her and Lucian aren't the best match. And that's fine, okay? So now the sisters are in the townhouse and they're staying there where they can be watched at all times.
So they head over to the Hewn City after this because they need to go. They have to do a few things. They want to see if Nesta can like conjure up her powers, and they also need to find the Ouroboros mirror to bring to the bone carver. So they go there, and Nesta and Amryn disappear because they're going to go play with all the trinkets downstairs and see like if because she's trying to find objects of power, like using her own power, essentially, right? So I can only imagine how that went because Amryn's a bitch and so is Nesta. But then they go into the council room and they talk with Kier, which is Mor's dad, and Eris, which is her ex-betrothed. So not good.
Yeah, no. So already tensions are high. Like,
and Mor didn't know that this was going to happen.
No.
So she's pissed.
And Rhys is like, obviously set this up.
Yeah.
And so Mor is like feeling super betrayed, which was like a fucked up move on his part for sure.
Yeah. I mean, like, that's your girl, and like, you're kind of crossing her.
Right.
Like, it's probably the two people that she wouldn't want to be in a room with, and now she's in a room with both of them. So tensions are very high. And Reese.
I say Reese, but whatever. I feel like whatever.
Man. Rice and beans is like, bro. So he's talking to Kier, and Kier's like, I want to go to Valaris. And Reese is like, yeah, sure, buddy, you can come, but there's going to be, some conditions for you to come. And Mor's like, what the hell? Like, can this day get any worse?
Right, because that's like her safe haven, and she like escaped her family. And so she's like you didn't even talk to any of us about this, but that's like his conditions in order to like bring his army for the war. So Reese is kind of like hands tied, but also, was there nothing else you could have done? I don't know.
Yeah. And then following that, because, just continue to fuck shit up. Kier says that it's impossible to take the Ouroboros because Feyre's like, hey, I need this mirror. I hear you have it. Can I have it? And he's like, many have tried and everyone's failed. And she's like, ah, shit.
And Feyre even says, like, she's like, oh, the fact that it's been here for thousands of years probably should have tipped me off that, like, this is an issue.
Yeah, he was like, everyone who's looked into it has either gone insane or they've died. So good luck. And she was like, well, what the hell am I going to do now? So it was kind of like a flop for that point.
Right, and now Feyre's pissed. But, so then Kier's like, all right, well, now that I have permission to go to Valaris and you can't take the mirror, I'm out. And so now they're alone with Eris. And Eris is saying some, like, I don't know,
questionable things.
Yeah, they start talking about that day when Mor was left in the Autumn Court woods. And Eris, again, is hinting at things.
Yeah.
And so
this is when I got, like, really intrigued by Eris. He says, like, oh, there were forces at work that you have never considered during that day. And, perhaps one day now that we're allies, I should tell you why and what it cost me. Okay. I was like, Eris, tell me more, you little redheaded fox, you.
Yeah, and again, I'm not convinced. Like, I kind of like him. I don't mind him.
No, I want to know more.
I do. I think we should kill off Baron and, like, we should, like, support his claim to the throne. I'm into it.
I mean, that's what they're fighting for in later books, but...
Right, and so...
we won't jump ahead yet.
Yeah. And so, basically, everyone is pissed, and they leave this meeting.
Yeah, bad, because even Nesta wasn't able to
do anything. Yeah, she kept failing. So she's pissed. Amren's pissed. And so...
Moore's pissed. Feyre's pissed.
Yeah. So...
Rhys is like, la, la, la.
Yeah. So now we go back to the townhouse, and this makes for a very interesting aftermath. And so Moore's upset, and she's crying. And Rhys is like, listen, Eris caught Azriel spying, so we had no choice. But we're taking precautions. I got this. And Moore's like, I don't know, like, how I feel about that. Like, I don't think that's true. And they're fighting. And so then Moore comes back, and she, like, claps back at Rhys a little and says, if Amarantha were alive and I offered to work with her, even if it was to save us all, how would you feel? Like, thinking she has Rhys in a corner.
Yeah, and like, put yourself in my shoes.
Right. And that didn't work. And Rhys says, if Amarantha offered us a slim shot at survival, then I would not give a shit that she made me fuck her for all those years. And everyone's like, oh.
Everyone, like, flinches and is like, oh, God, he went there.
Because, like, they don't really know the extent still. Like, he doesn't talk about it. And so I think they're like, oh, my God, okay. Like, and Feyre knows, but, like, they don't know because he tried to, like, shield them from it. And so
talk about trauma.
Right. And so everyone's like, okay. And so Amren's the mediator somehow. Great. And she's like, Rhys, you made a good call, but you kind of did it in a dicky way. Okay, fine. But then as Amren's mediating, Feyre's like, it sucks we can't get the mirror from the prison. And Amren's like, you went to the prison and now she's pissed. And everyone's just going back and forth super angry. And so Amren's like,
because they never told Amren that they went to go see the bone carver.
No, they were hiding it from her. So now all of a sudden that comes out, and she's like, why?
And she's like, fuck that. I'm not going to be a peacemaker anymore.
Right. And so Feyre's like, we're trying to release the bone carver. And she's like, okay, great. And so Amren explains how she got out, and she basically says that she had to give something up, and it was like her true form. She had to, I don't know, resort down to just being a high fae instead of like this all-powerful thing that she was.
Yeah. Like she came through like a rip in the sky, she says, and like they kind of make it sound like a punishment that like she has to like contain her essence in like a fae body.
Yes, because whatever she was like way more powerful.
Yeah, like you can't even fathom like what she was.
And so because she changed her essence, the prison didn't recognize her, and so it like let her out. And yeah,
where'd she get the body from?
I think she just made it. Like, she literally said she could have been a guy if she wanted, but she was like, this one's more symmetrical.
I kind of would like... Oh, yeah. I kind of like the idea if, like, Amren was, like, a body snatcher. Like, I feel like that would just really add to her allure.
I like it. Imagine, like, she could just change whenever she wants. She's like, I'm a dude today. I like it. And so as Hallee mentioned, she came out of like this rip in the sky. We'll talk a lot more about those kinds of things in Silver Flames, so stay tuned. And so then, while all this chaos is going on, Elaine busts in, and she's like, I hear someone crying. And they're like, no one's crying. And she's like, no, not you guys. And they're like, what? And then...
Didn't we, like... I can just, like, imagine, like, everyone just turned, like, didn't we fucking put you in the corner? Like, why are you here?
Right. And then she goes, it made them give something back. And they're like, who? And what? Like, what are you talking about? And Lucien, like, looks at all them, and he's like, can someone get this girl a healer?
Yeah,
like,
seriously.
Something's wrong with her.
It's not okay.
And so Lucian's like, please, get her checked out. And they're like, you know what? Not a bad idea.
Oh, that's actually a good idea, Lucien. Thank you for that.
Right.
Psychiatrist, therapist, you know, she needs to talk to somebody about whatever the hell's going on.
Yeah, she needs something.
So they have a healer come, and the healer's like, yep, she's good. I don't know, she's really healthy. There's nothing wrong with her. And everyone's like, there's clearly something wrong with her. But so Elaine continues to be a mystery, which I just, of course. So they make Lucien actually sit with her after the healer, and I kind of feel like that was almost like a punishment, like indirectly.
Well, the healer like says, she's like, oh, nothing's physically wrong with her, but a mate and the bond they share is so powerful, he might be able to sense something else. And so
and then he does something, and she like jumps back.
Yeah, he like,
and she's like, what was that?
He like tugs on the bond. And she was like, it feels like you pulled my rib.
So then, to further the insanity, she like blurts out, "Oh, twin ravens are coming, one white, one black."
And we're like,
And
what
we're
is
like, "Come
she
on,
saying?
bro! Like, stop speaking in riddles. Like, just say what you want to say." So, and then she even this is actually we've talked a lot about this.
And we're going to
Um,
talk more about it now.
so Elaine also tells Cassian, she was like, "He snapped your wings and broke your bones," and Cassian's like, "Oh, it'll take more than that to kill me," or something like that. And Elaine's like, "Yeah, no, it won't." Sorry, buddy, but no.
Yeah, so we're going to theorize about this. And so if you haven't read this book, it's a spoiler for the end of this book. So skip ahead like probably 2 minutes because I'm sure we'll chat about this for a little. Um, so at the end of this book, as we know if we read the book, in the battle with Hybern, there's a point when the King of Hybern and Cassian are fighting. I won't go into much detail about that in case you haven't read it. But his wings do get broken and he's bleeding out and he's about to die.
Yeah.
So do we think this is what Elaine is referring to? Or I have high speculations that in the books to come, especially with how Crescent City 2 ended, do we think that Cassian dies in the series?
As much as a Cassian girly you are, you want him to die, which I think
No,
is bizarre.
I don't. I just have a strong feeling that Cassian dies. I think
But here's my thing, right? Is like he was protecting Nesta, like
mhm.
with the King of Hybern when all that was happening at the end of this book. So like I wonder if it was like a metaphorical dying. Because at that point, the books to come, we really see that like Cassian is like all about Nesta.
Mhm.
And like maybe he had to like kill off like the old version of himself to fully embrace her.
So that could be too, and I actually don't hate that if that's what it is. I just think there's been so much with Cassian and his arch and all that stuff that I'm not convinced that he makes it, you know? But I don't know, because SJM fucking be saving all these people out here when everyone should be dying.
Well, that's the
So,
thing, right? It's like no one's dead, which is crazy because in Throne of Glass, she kills off everybody.
and we're going to talk a lot about that and how we feel about it in episode 7, next episode, when we get to the war, because it frustrates us, honestly.
Yeah, because it's like
It's not realistic.
Akatar already has that like perfect, fantasy plot to it.
Mhm.
So it just is like almost annoying that like, okay, Feyre dies and now she's back. Rhys dies and then he's back. Then this person dies and now they're back. Like Amren's whatever. But then like you read Throne of Glass and every book someone major is dying.
Right. And that's why I think that's also why I was
Which I think is why
thinking,
I like Throne of Glass more than Akatar.
well, and that's I think why I'm like, oh, Cassian might die because we haven't really had a main character death yet. And I think he's just lovable. He's like a puppy dog. And he would be a solid one to kill off. You know, I don't
Kill off
want it,
Elaine, bro. Like if you want to kill
but
anyone else.
no one would care. No one would care.
But here's the thing: if Elaine comes out with her own book, I'm very intrigued to like know what it could contain because she's really gonna have to fucking write her amazing because everyone just doesn't fucking care about her.
Yeah, which I think. I mean, so I think she confirmed next book is Elaine's point of view, and I think, yeah. I mean, I'm intrigued,
But I'm
honestly.
like kind of nervous because people were saying shitty things about Crescent City 3.
I
Like you
know.
had all this time to write an amazing book and you fucking flopped. Like what is Elaine gonna be? Another flop?
I know. Well, and so, oh, just so you guys know, as our viewers, so we're doing all these recapping. We have not yet read Crescent City 3, so when we record that,
Because
it'll
Jamie's
be,
behind.
no, because we're doing this first. But when we record that, it'll be like all of our like live reactions. So all the theories we have now, they could be confirmed or denied in Crescent City 3, and that's why we're saying them now because we don't know. We still don't know.
Oh, I want
So
to know so bad.
we're gonna get there soon. Promise. So yeah, so that was just
In
an
5 weeks.
interesting Cassian point. I don't know. I'm not convinced that that's not his fate because, spoiler, he doesn't end up dying, and so I don't know. She says it won't take more than that to kill you. Well, that didn't kill him. So
I think it would actually be like crazy if she killed off like 3 major players at once.
I mean, yeah, I don't hate it, and so we'll see what happens. I don't know. Again, At this point, if you guys have read Crescent City 3, Cassian could be dead. I have no idea.
I don't think he dies in Crescent City 3.
I don't either. But
because they say the book kind of revolves around like 4 main characters and like everyone else is left out.
What a flop. Anyways, I digress. Let's move on with this.
We still love you, SJM, but I don't know. You're in the trenches right now.
Right.
But if you are getting coffee with Margot Robbie, I guess it's okay.
For sure. And so, yeah. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens with that, but I'm not convinced. So, we'll see.
Yeah. So, anyways, I know we talk a lot of shit about Elaine, but she's actually onto something.
Right.
So Nesta and Feyre go to the library to look for information about the wall because they're trying to patch the wall and save it. And while they're there, you know, Feyre like feels like a presence or something.
Yeah, and like all the lights go out and
Yeah.
they're like, uh-oh.
Super spooky, you know, horror movie kind of thing. And lo and behold, these 2 ravens come. And so the ravens are actually like 2 of like Hybern's soldiers, like spies, assassins or something.
Yeah, and like one has light hair, one has dark hair.
Yeah. So
mind you, like when they introduce themselves, they're like, we are Hybern's ravens. You're like, oh well, thank you. In case we're too stupid to figure that out.
Yeah. So okay, Elaine, we'll give you that one. So Feyre and Nesta are like running through the library. They end up running down to the pit of the library.
Which is where that spooky beast is that Cassian is petrified of.
Yeah, but Feyre's like, let's go. So they're down there and the ravens are coming after them. And Feyre's like, you know, we're trapped. What are we going to do? I can't fight them off. Like, whatever. Nesta, she's useless because she doesn't know.
Feyre tells her to run. Yeah, Feyre's like, run away. And Nesta dips.
Oh, yeah, she did dip.
Yeah, she dips.
Wow. Fake ass bitch.
Fake sister.
Anyways, so while she's down there, she's like, what am I going to do? Blah, blah, blah. And then this little voice goes, did you ask for help? Or some shit like that, like some super creepy shit. And Feyre's like, hello? And so she's talking to the monster in the pit. And the monster's like, oh, if you give me company, I will kill the ravens for you. And Feyre's like, yeah, just do it. So
how cute. What an ask. Like, what an easy bargain. He's like, I just want a friend, bro.
Which is like sad.
Right.
Anyways, so Feyre makes another bargain. She loves making her bargains, this girl.
Loves them.
So then we learn that the name is Bryaxis.
Yeah.
Later on.
Cutie boy.
Whatever.
I
thought Bryaxis was a girl.
I don't know. It's like a non-being, like the cereal, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe they just don't. Whatever. Anyways, so Bryaxis goes and kills the ravens, and then Cassian comes swooping in. He's like, I found Nesta, and I was worried about where you were, and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, big tough guy.
And Rhys comes in too. They come save their ladies.
Yeah. Wow, swoon.
I know. I mean, I was kind of into it. I was like, oh, the little men are like, hey, and they come save them. And
a little too late, though.
Well, yeah. But Bryaxis was kind of nice because he, like, was killing the ravens and then, like, lets Rhys, like, finish the job. Oh. He's like, I know you're pissed off
right now. Have my scraps.
Right. You're like, okay, that's good, I guess.
So, yeah, that was nice. But as you could see, like, they're getting attacked a lot more, right? So it's kind of like subtly hinting at like, okay, when is this shit just gonna blow up?
Mm-hmm.
And it does soon. So
it does. And in this interaction, Nesta is like talking to them before she runs away, and they actually, you think they're there for Feyre, of course, because she's like the main character. And the ravens reveal they're like, oh, we came to get Nesta. Like the High Lady is just a bonus, and you're like, what the fuck? Yeah. And it's because Hybern wants Nesta back because he wants what she took. So we start figuring out
from the cauldron.
Mm-hmm. And we start figuring out in the inner circle, oh, like he's not using the cauldron not because it's recuperating, but because Nesta like took too much.
Yeah.
It'll still work, but they're like, we would like it more, you know.
They want it at full capacity to destroy everybody.
Correct.
And everything.
And so we're learning that. So now we kind of know.
Understandable.
Right. Now we know Hybern's hand. We know that they want Nesta. So we're like, okay, this benefits us. We know their motive. We know what they want. And so we know they're also getting desperate because they showed their hand, you know? So we learned a bit more from that. Great.
Which I think is funny because not even Hybern wants Elaine.
No one gives a fuck. Well, and then speaking of Elaine, so they get back from this trauma, right? And Elaine's like, there's a cursed queen who's a bird made of fire. And they're like, what are you talking about, Elaine? And she's like,
get it together.
And right. And she's like, it's the sixth missing queen. So remember from, oh God, book 1, either episode 1 or 2, there was that queen they said was sick. She's not sick. She's like,
no, in 3 or 4.
No, because is it?
Yeah, because they don't meet the queens until the second book.
Oh, yes, you're right. Yes. I have no idea. My mind doesn't work. Anyways,
silly
Jamie. And so yeah, episode 3 or 4, book 2.
Yeah,
there we go. I'm back on track. Okay. Anyway, so that queen, the sixth queen, is not sick. She's like cursed at a lake, and they made her a bird of fire. Great. Okay.
She's a phoenix.
She is,
or no, a firebird.
Firebird. I mean, something. I feel as though those are like the same.
She's a fiery bird.
She's a fire little thing. And so Elaine mentions that, and Asriel's like, oh my God, Elaine, you're a seer. And they're all like, oh, yeah. She's not crazy.
Yeah. Now it makes sense. Thank you for diagnosing her, Asriel.
Right. And then Feyre's like, oh shit, Asriel, you're right. Like, there was 2 ravens, one white and one black. Okay. Like, so
it all gets pieced together. Elaine was probably like, thank you. I told you I wasn't crazy.
Right. And yeah, so Elaine isn't crazy. So she's fine. She can just see into the future. And so we find out that this queen is somewhere and she's cursed by a sorcerer. And so we're like, oh my God, she could be an ally because she's a human queen who is clearly on our side. The bitchy queens betrayed her, so we like her. And so we're like, okay, we got to find her. She's on the continent somewhere in a lake. And Lucian's like, you know what? I'll go because no one needs me here.
Poor Lucian.
It is sad because he literally goes because he's like, okay, like Elaine wants nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
Like I should help. And like Tamlin doesn't want anything to do with me, you know? So he has nowhere to go.
He's like lost. He's in limbo. And like, I'm sure he feels that like them at the night court are just like pitying him.
Yeah, so he's like, you know what? I will fucking go, guys. I'll help the cause. So he's
finding a purpose for himself.
Yeah, and he wants to help, and I feel like he doesn't hate the night court, but he's like, all right, everyone has like their roles established, and I'm just kind of like the unwanted guest.
Yeah.
And so Lucian's like, okay, I'll go. And so he packs up and he leaves. As he's leaving, shocker, Amren bursts in, because everyone loves bursting in this part of the book, and she's like, Summer Court is under attack by Hybern right now. And they're like, fuck, like, why?
Yeah, so Hybern attacks Adriata.
So
is that the like capital?
Yeah, it's like the main, like where the palace is and like all that. So they go.
Yeah, so they go to Adriata to defend the Summer Court.
Even though they want to kill them.
Yeah, even though there's blood rubies out for them, they still want to.
Because they're good people. So, yay.
Yes. Yeah, we love them. So they go to Adriata, and Rhys, Cassian, Az, like they all disappear. They're like in the thick of it. And Feyre's like, well, I'm not just going to stand here. And so her and Mor go to the palace because like there's Hybern soldiers like attacking the people in the palace. So they like clear every freaking level of the palace, which is like I was like imagining like a video game.
Oh my God.
First floor clear, second floor clear.
Imagine us as Mor and Feyre would be kicking ass.
Listen, when the US freaking drafts for the Third World War that's coming, they're going to draft women too. So we're going to have to go.
We talk about this actually sometimes because my friends, their nickname for me is Jamebo. And I started to realize I think it's because I'm like a short, brolic woman. And like I imagine myself with a machine gun. And I would crush it. What's if I go to the gym? I train for this. I'm actually training for one of these books.
Amazing.
I'm prepped.
You're a Valkyrie.
I am. I'm ready. Guys, don't fuck with me.
All right, Jamie, calm down. Put the muscles away, please. So they're fighting in the palace, and they kill all the Hybern soldiers.
Yeah, they did great.
They annihilated everyone. And then Rhys lets Feyre into his mind. Mm-hmm. So Rhys flies out to one of the ships because
he senses like the powers coming from there. Something.
And then lo and behold, the King of Hybern is on the ship.
Just walks out, and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, so they have some shared words. And we end up finding out that the king of Hybern was an illusion.
Yeah, Rhys like shoots him with power after they like go back and forth, just like measuring dick sizes, and
he wasn't even there.
Yeah, like the spear of power goes through him, and he's like, haha.
Yeah, he's like, did you really think I would be here? Like,
we're like, kinda.
Yeah, come on, bro. Like, anyways, so they're all like, oh my god, whatever. So Hybern, they die, or the rest of them like retreat.
Yeah. They kill them, they retreat. The battle is like won for all intents and purposes.
Yeah, and then they come, they regroup, and Tarquin's standing there, and he's like looking at them all pensively.
He's so like pissy.
Yeah, he's like very, what's the word?
Aloof.
No, I wouldn't say aloof. I guess pissy is like a good word. I mean, rightfully so. He's pissed. He has blood rubies out for them.
But also, like, they just saved your ass.
Well, yeah, so they did that, and he's like, all right, I'll give that one to you. So he's like, not as mad. He's like, I won't kill you here. And then Rhys is like, come to the High Lord meeting.
Right, because they're getting answers back, and like Tarquin hasn't replied yet. And so Rhys is like, just consider coming. And he's like, I'll see. And they leave, and that was it. And okay, like, fine.
Like, so I guess there's like a truce right now.
Yeah, like, and we don't know if Tarquin's gonna come or not. We're not entirely sure.
We don't think Tamlin's gonna come.
And we don't think Autumn's gonna come, and the rest have answered. And they are coming, they're just finding a location. Okay, fine. So we won this battle. Everyone's alive from the inner circle. All is well. You know, they have some damages, whatever. And so the inner circle winnows away to a camp above Adriata. And this is like not super relevant as a plot point, except for this fucking quote. So
this is sick. If there's children around, cover their ears.
Yeah, cover their ears, shield their eyes. Make them leave the room. And
this, I think this was the moment when I was like, all right, Sarah, what are you writing? What are you fantasizing about? This is a bit much.
So after the battle, they're in a tent, Rhys and Feyre. And Feyre just starts giving a wicked blowjob because what else do you do? Like, what the fuck? And so this quote...
I guess war turns them on. I don't know.
Sick. And so this quote is, I will read it exactly, and I quote, "His growls of pleasure filled the tent, drowning out the distant cries of the injured and dying." Sarah!
Come on. What are we doing?
What the fuck? What?
Do you think it was like comedic relief? I know what's gonna get him. Starts typing away.
Like, how do you... Okay, also, not even just her publisher was like, full
seriously. If we're publishing this book, this one line has to be in it.
So, yeah, again, not relevant to the podcast or the plot, really, but I had to read that because that's unhinged. That's insane.
Yeah,
wow.
That's probably, like, the most out-of-pocket thing she writes in all her books.
So, Jesus. So after that, I guess they're both feeling good, and Feyre's sparked with an idea. And so she's like, Rhys, I want to go back to the prison. And he's like, okay, we'll go right now. So she goes to the prison, and she goes to the bone carver, and she's like, dude, fuck you. I can't even take this mirror. Like, she's pissed. And she's like, pick something else. And he's like, nope, I want that. And she's like, God, like, you're making it impossible. And so after their visit, Rhys learns that Feyre sees their son. That is who she sees when she sees the bone carver. We'll talk more about that plot point shortly.
Annoying.
We'll talk about it probably when we cover Frost and Starlight, I would imagine. We'll go deep dive into their son and pregnancy and that trope as well. But for now, whatever. That's what we learned. Very short visit, and so then they go back. And so now they leave the war camp, they go back to the townhouse, and they're prepping for the High Lord meeting. They finally agree on the location. It's going to be at the Dawn Court. And we don't really know if everyone's showing up, but we know that we're going. So...
And you're coming along with us.
Right.
So last minute, Nessa's like, oh, yeah, by the way, I'm going to come with you to the High Lord meeting. And everyone's like, oh my God, that's great. So that's cool. Nessa's going to come in, tell her story.
Well, right. And like she said, I don't want to be remembered as a coward, because when Feyre came back from the summer court battle, she's like, why did you go fight? And Feyre's like, because they needed me. Like, people needed help. And Nessa was like, well, damn, I'm a pussy, so I guess I should go just tell them my story. So Nessa, kind of grows a conscience and is trying to be a good person.
She's very hot and cold. I just whatever. She's irrelevant to me. So
we'll talk about Nesta deep dive as well.
Yeah. And then also what I thought was really funny before they go to the High Lord meeting is like they're all sitting around placing bets on like who's gonna fight first, and like within like what amount of time span.
Because they know it's gonna be a shit show.
Yeah, and I was surprised Az is like, nah, bro. Like first fight is probably gonna be like first 10 minutes, and everyone's like, no, and they're like they're being serious. So you have like this like very intense meeting that like has to go well, and then you have these fuckers, and they're like, who do you think's gonna fight? Like,
but like also they're not wrong. Like you're going into this as a reader fully expecting this to go horribly,
and it does.
It does. Oh my god, I can't talk about it.
So they head off to Dawn Court, and there's like a weird kind of, again, this weird atmosphere between Nesta and Cassian.
Yeah, so before they leave, or like as they're leaving, like literally as they're winnowing out, Nesta like sees Cassian for the first time since Adriata, and like when they all came back, she kept asking, "Where's Cassian?" They're like, "He's fine. He's like taking care of things.
Like, why do you care?"
Right, and they're like, "He's the general. Like he's just dealing with things.
Why do you care?"
Right, and she acts like she doesn't care, but clearly she does. And so as they're like talking, she like blurts out like, "Oh, you didn't come to say hi to me." And then she like stops herself, and they're all looking around like, "What? Like why the fuck does she care?" And so this part is weird. Like they're about to transport, and it says, "Cassian's eyes did not leave Nesta's, nor did hers leave his. There was no warmth, no tenderness on either of their faces, only that raging intensity, that blend of contempt and understanding and fire." Which she sets them up like way more intense than Reese and Feyre, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like there's like a ton of sexual tension, a ton of passion, but like,
and everything's described as fire, which is interesting.
I think I think it fits for them as a couple, but I also think she had to lean heavy into that because she made Nesta's drawer fire for Lucian originally. So like she had to just keep mentioning fire for them, or else it wouldn't make sense.
Yeah. But like she does have fire as like her
right,
power.
And like Cassian's fiery, like his siphons are red. So
True.
I don't hate it for them. I just think like she also has to lean
so
hard.
matchy.
Right. I think she also has to lean heavy into it because of
you done fucked up.
Yeah. She like wrote it and was like, "Oopsies, I'm changing it." So
Lucian's too nice to be with Nesta.
Agreed. Yeah, no, I agree.
She'd eat him alive.
I think she changed it for the better.
Yeah.
Which I think as a writer is cool that like her characters kind of grow their own personalities, and she was like, "Yeah, I realized that did not work. Like that was her original."
Yeah, isn't that crazy? Like you're writing a book and you're planning one thing, but then the characters just
really like they literally have a mind of their own. That's wild. That's like creepy, actually.
That's like a conversation smoking a blunt. So
yeah, and so Cassian's like, "Next time I'll come say hi," and like you're like, okay, like they're getting a little flirty and like passionate, and okay, and then they winnow out and they're going to Dawn.
Yeah, so they go to Dawn and they're like, "What's up?" Oh, and before this as well, just want to point out that they decided that they weren't going to go in and like play like the big tough night court act that they have been playing with everyone.
Right.
They're like, we're going to go true to ourselves. We're going to have to really, be vulnerable because we need these people like to fight with us.
Yeah, and the only thing they're hiding is Feyre's powers because they don't want to reveal that she took a little bit of all their powers and make it seem like manipulation. Like, we're good guys, but haha, we have one over on you, you know? So they're going to be themselves, but just like neglect to mention that.
Yeah. So while we're there, we meet a few of the High Lords. Thessian, who's what day?
He's Dawn.
Dawn.
So that's
duh.
So that's idiot. That's whose like house they're at. She's saying she's an idiot because it's written right in front of her. It literally says Thessian - Dawn.
Anyways, then there's Callias, who is the High Lord of Winter, and he brings his wife and mate Vivian.
We love her.
And I just thought it was so funny how she sets the scene, and all of a sudden you hear more like squealing, and her and Vivian like run to each other, and apparently they're fucking best friends.
Right, and like everyone's like being serious and trying to like feel each other out still.
Yeah.
And these two are being like, "Oh my god, hey!" Yeah. And then like she's like, "We're mates," and Moore's like, "No freaking way!"
And then they like go in the corner and they're just like giggling and like screeching and like.
Yeah, and at one point, like, they say that Feyre's High Lady, and Vivian's like, why can't I be High Lady? So, like, they're just, like, these two, like, they're definitely comedic relief for sure.
Yeah, which, love them. We also meet Helion, which is...
He's like a hunky chocolate daddy.
Yeah, he's got some good vibes to him. But he comes off very, like, cold and, like, aloof. Like, it's giving, like, Rasan.
Yeah, he's like kind of dicky, but they also describe how thick his thighs are. So you're kind of like, is it okay? I guess.
And his long hair.
Yeah, and they're like, he's wearing like a sarong. You're like, oh, he came to play.
Yeah, seriously.
Like, wow.
So we like him.
We do. Yeah, like you're like, I don't mind that you're a dick because your thighs are out.
It's like the 5-inch inseam, like on like swim trunks.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, he's wearing like the short shorts. Yeah. He's like, let me show off these babies.
Yeah, seriously. So they're all just there, like kind of chilling, and then Baron comes with all his sons.
So they showed up. Great.
So there's like, 50 Autumn Court people there. And then guess who does show up? Tamlin. And everyone's like looking at each other, like, oh shit.
Right. And so now they're all there. So Tarquin did come because he's like, you kind of knew he was going to after they saved him. Like,
for
great.
Sure.
But yeah, Baron was a surprise, and then Tamlin just fucking in.
Yeah, so shit's gonna get fucking out of pocket real quick, which it does. So
but
maybe we should go into that.
Oh, guys, buckle up for the High Lord meeting because it's truly insane. So the meeting starts, and right off the bat, Tamlin's mad aggressive for no reason, and you expect it. Yeah, you expect it, but at the same time, you're like, dude, rein it in, like you're embarrassing yourself. And so he's trying to like rewrite the narrative about Night Court, and I think he's probably extra aggressive because he's seeing Feyre and Rhys happy.
But he's like playing like the world's smallest violin, or maybe I should say the world's smallest fiddle.
Was thinking it as you said it, and I'm so glad that you said it. I hate him. Like, okay, now that we know about Tamlin, do you guys understand why the fiddle was fucking disgusting? And so he's just being a dick and like just like constantly making comments, right? And so he's trying to rewrite the narrative, as I mentioned, and basically be like, they took Feyre, they're assholes, whatever. And so he says, if you hadn't stolen my bride away in the night resand, I would not have been forced to take such drastic measures to get her back, meaning like allying with Hybern.
Just wait.
Oh yeah. And Feyre's like,
clap back.
The sun was shining when I left you. And you're like, oh, okay. And so
period.
She also then goes off and she mentions and she says, where is it? Oh yeah, you don't get to rewrite the narrative. You don't get to spin this to your advantage because he doesn't. Like, he's, again, playing the world's smallest fiddle. Like, I only went to Hybern because, like, you stole her. And she's like, bro, I left you. Like, I left. Mm-hmm. So, therefore, just accept it and move on.
And then she had the decency to write him a letter.
Right. And he still didn't get it. So, it's like, get a grip. And so, that was her comment, like, you don't get to spin this to your advantage. To which he replies directly after, get ready to get angry.
Oh boy.
He looks at Rhys dead in the fucking face and he says, so when you fuck her, have you ever noticed that little noise she makes right before she climaxes? Okay, so that's crazy. And second, imagine everyone watching this. They're like, all right, guys,
like, that is extremely out of pocket to begin with. And then to fucking put it on blast in front of all these High Lords who were trying to come together to make peace so we could fight.
They haven't spoken about this once, Hybern. Tamlin's just going off. And so then, this is where Hallee fell in love. Yes. No one replies to this because everyone's fucking shocked, except for Azriel. And he looks right at him. And he's like, be careful how you speak about my High Lady. And you're like, yeah! Yeah! He said one fucking word this whole 3 books. Yeah. And you're like, I love you.
But, like, I feel like you just have to know, like, if you like ACOTAR and you watch, the reels, the videos, and it's... Did you hear the cat?
Yeah, he's screaming.
Anyways, I guess they had like AI do it. I don't really think a man actually went out of his way to like voice that.
I don't know. Some of these guys are a little corny and they
But
do
it's
shit
like
like that.
really deep and like guttural, and it's like
I tried to do it. Did I do it?
no. Come on, Jambo. Come on,
Right.
Jambo.
And so that's just crazy. But you see like a little bit more of Azrael, and you're like, "Ooh, that was nice." So okay, great.
Love
Moving
him.
on.
Love him.
And so after that, Tamlin like settles a little, but like he's still being a dick. But at least as he's being a dick still, he's making snide comments, but they're actually talking about Hybern, which is like, thank God.
Yeah.
And Tamlin's like, well, I came here because I have papers. Like, I'm acting like I'm their ally. Fuck you guys. Here's the papers of like all their army's movement. So that is helpful. And you're like, okay, if this
Wow.
is true.
Like, thanks, Tamlin. You legit are contributing, which you should be.
Right. So if this is true and this is like honest, you're like, okay, cool, we can move forward with this. And
Yeah.
so he hands these all out. And again, still being a dick, but
Yeah, he's still going on. Like, okay, we get it, you're upset, but shut the fuck up because that's not the reason why everyone's here. You know, this isn't an episode of Maury, okay? Like, we're here to discuss how you're going to defeat Hybern, not who's the baby daddy, okay?
right.
So Reese just gets like so fed up and he legit gags him.
Yeah, and like he like literally like he's moving his mouth and like nothing's coming.
Yeah, amazing. And then everyone's like, "Oh shit, like we forgot like how powerful Reese is."
Right, because if he can control another High Lord, like he's infinitely more powerful. Because like if two High Lords went head to head, in theory, like nothing would happen because they could both like just kind of keep going back and forth. Tamlin literally can't overpower Reese's power.
No.
And so all the High Lords are like, oh yeah, we forgot Reese is like the real deal.
Yeah. So then after that, Tamlin, you know, pipes the fuck down, thank God.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't stop there.
Yeah, Tamlin's now good, but let's just keep going with the aggression.
Yeah, so Eris insults more because why not? And Azriel and him start fighting, and Az has him like in a headlock or something, like he's choking him out. And yeah, I just want to like mention here, I don't think we've discussed it yet, but like Az and Moore have like this very weird relationship.
I don't think we've talked about it, so we should let's
so basically like Azriel pines over Moore, but Moore doesn't give Az the time of day. So as we know, she got with Cassian, and then like he like her and Cassian are like fine, they're like bros now, but like whenever Az like tries to like extend his hand and like maybe like subtly make a move, Moore like freaks the fuck out, and then he like does something to like reinstill in his mind that like they will never be a thing,
and it's
which
sad.
is fucked up.
Yeah, like she does love him, but clearly it's not romantic. And Reese even says like Azriel's loved her for 500 years.
That's a long time to love someone and to be rejected.
Yeah, and at one point he even says, like, I think Azriel wonders about the mating bond, like, every time he looks at Moore, like, will this ever click into place? Like, why do I feel so strongly about her, and why can't I get over it? Yeah. Like, so Azriel is just this, like, sad, broody, super in love boy. And, you know, like Hallee just said, like, Moore picked Cassian basically because she knew it would mean nothing to either of them. She kind of just needed to be like quote unquote sullied for the purpose of like not marrying Eris.
Yeah.
And so this is where we really find out like, oh, Azriel is passionate about this.
Yeah, but we learn why Moore does this later on.
Yeah, Moore does explain that, and we'll talk about that next episode.
Yeah.
And so yeah, and honestly, Eris's comment, I mean, it was bad. I think he said like, oh, you still dress like a slut. Like, whatever. Which, it's not nice, but hello, do you hear what Tamlin said to fucking Feyre? Like, Reese didn't go kill him, so Azriel just starts choking him out. And
which I think is crazy because Tamlin had such a more terrible, you know, comeback. And Azriel's just like, watch how you talk. But then Eris is like, oh, you're a slut. And Azriel's like, I'm going to chop your head off.
Well, because he loves her, you know? But it's funny, too, because Azriel was the one betting, like, on everyone else fighting.
Yeah, and he's the one in the fight.
Right, so what a psycho.
But
and so
we love
Feyre,
him.
like, calls him off, and she's like, Azriel, come here. And then you're like, oh, like a dog.
Yeah,
like,
seriously. She's really feeding into that High Lord power. Yeah, High Lady power.
Yeah, and they're all like, well, I think it's also good for them all to see. Like, oh, he listens to her because she's High Lady.
Yeah.
You know, so it's kind of like showing her hand of power, which... a solid move, I guess.
Whatever, we'll give it to her.
So now again, we're back to trying to be productive. And so Dawn says we have a tinkerer here and they made a Fabane antidote. Fabane is like this powder that nullifies their powers. And
Which is
it's
what happened to Feyre and Lucian.
Yeah, in the beginning with Dagden and Branna.
Yeah.
So they're like, cool, we found an antidote to this, so then they have like a fair fight, when war comes.
Yeah. But then Autumn is just like, yeah, sorry, bro, but we're not taking that shit.
Right,
and everyone else is like, yeah, we'll take it. Even Eris, Baron's son, is like, yeah.
Well, and I think, so Baron's like, I'm not taking it. Like, what if it's poison? They're like, you're an idiot. Like, we're also gonna take it. Yeah. Like, hello. And I think Eris, again, he's like, I'll take it. He's trying to also, at this point, I think, appease the other High Lords and be like, look how reasonable I am.
Well, yeah, he's like subtly undermining his father.
It's like his audition tape to be High Lord. He's like, guys, like, look how cool I am compared to my fucking loser dad.
Yeah.
It works because I'm like, yeah, like Eris is way more reasonable.
Eris is being a little bit of a pick me girl right now, but it's okay.
But I would pick him.
I would pick him, yes.
So it's like when you run for like student council president and you're like,
you start baking cupcakes for people.
Right, Eris, they get like a little package like, I want to be High Lord. Here's some cupcakes. Enjoy.
Oh, Eris.
And they're like, thanks. And so yeah, Eris is trying. Fine, we like that. And so then we also discuss in this part, there's a bunch of refugees in Spring because Hybern is gonna like land there.
Yeah.
They're all dishoused. What is it? Like displaced, unhoused. I don't know.
The
Spring Court. Like, displaced.
It's in shambles.
Yeah. They got no roofs. And so Summer Court is like, listen, we will take all of your refugees. We will hold them. Whatever, fine.
That's nice.
And of course, again, we were productive for 2 seconds, so of course we can't keep being productive. And so Baron insults Cassian, and he basically says,
everyone's just trying to fight, like, put their subtle jabs in.
Right. And not only does he call Cassian a bastard, but he goes one more step.
And your mom's a hoe.
Yeah. He said, I don't take orders from the bastards of lesser Fey whores. Wow. Like, yeah, not only are you a bastard, but your mom's a whore.
Like, these people are crazy.
So Baron says that for, like, no fucking reason either. Like, Cassian's just discussing, like, war plans. Because, again, he's the general, so he's trying to be productive. And guess what? Nesta jumps to his defense. And she says, bastard may wind up being the only person standing in the way of Hybern's forces and your people. And it says that, like, Cassian, of course, looks at her like he's never seen her before. So I think the High Lord meeting, it's cute, stop. I like it. And I think the High Lord meeting, yes, it does serve the plot of figuring out what's going to happen with this war and all of that. But I think the reason we're explaining all these fights, not only because it's hysterical and it's just hot gossip, but it really shows all the relationships very subtly. Mm-hmm. Like, Azriel's defending Mor. Tamlin's still butthurt and he's a little bitch. And, like, Feyre's dealing with that. And, like, Rhys is, like, kind of letting Feyre hold her own to prove that she's powerful. Now Nesta's defending Cassian. Like, we're seeing all these dynamics. And I think that was a really interesting way because they're all in the same room. So you really get to see, like, because Eris with the Mor thing. Like, there's so many different things going on.
And then, mind you, like, they're all seated around, like, this pond in the center circle. Like, this is so bizarre.
Yeah, and so Baron just keeps going after this, even after Nesta, like, kind of tries to shut him down. And Feyre loses it and fucking shows her whole hand, shows all the powers. Remember, we weren't supposed to do that, but Feyre, like, starts drowning him.
Yeah, she... in the pond?
Yeah.
And so she goes... She's, his head's underwater. She's like, die, motherfucker, die.
They get him out somehow.
Yeah, he comes out and everyone's looking at her like, excuse me? And so now it's like, cat's out of the bag.
Right.
So Feyre's like, you know what? Yeah, I did take an ounce of all your powers, but guess what? They're mine now, and I'm going to use them to fight Hybern, whether you like it or not.
Right, and then Nesta jumps in. Now they're, like, being, like, sister team, which we love,
Tag
and
team.
Nesta tells, what?
Tag team.
Oh. They said Dagden. I was like, isn't he dead? I was like, I'm confused. Anyway, and so they tag team. There we go. And Nesta tells her story about when she went in the cauldron. So they're, like, trying to convince him. And Baron's basically like, well, you just fucking tried to drown me. Fuck you. I'm out. So he, like, leaves, and we don't really know where he stands. But everyone else was pretty moved by Feyre's story, and she's like, listen, like, yeah, I don't really care. Like, you can't get them back unless you kill me, and you're not gonna do that because I'll fuck you up. And so I'm gonna fight Hybern. So that's really all that this matters, you know?
And doesn't Tamlin leave after Baron too?
Well, first he stands. No, so then Feyre like stands, like, I'm gonna fight Hybern, and all the High Lords stand with her. So we have 6 out of 7.
Mm-hmm.
So it's only Baron who leaves because Tamlin stays the night.
Oh.
So basically, long story short, so they all stand. They're all vouching to fight Hybern besides for Baron. Okay, not bad, right? This actually ended out better than we thought. And so they keep talking. They said that more bickering ensued. We don't really know much about it. But then it gets late, and Thessian says, listen, we can talk more in the morning. If you'd like to stay, you're welcome to my quarters, whatever. And all of them stay because they all want to have their own private conversations. Like, all the, like, secret allies are like, cool, it's time for us to meet. And so everyone stays. Even Tamlin stays because I think there's a point in the book where Feyre's like, I can't have sex with you, Rhys, because, like, he's
here. Oh, yes. Yeah. Yeah, she was like, I would feel weird.
And he's like, yeah, that's fine. He's like, we'll just snuggle.
So being that they all stay, I thought it was so funny how, like, Helion, like, walks into their room and is like, hey, buddy, sorry I was being such a dick back there.
Yeah, so we learned that Helion, just like Rhys, has, like, a mask. But he's actually, like, him and Rhys are, like, BFFs. Yeah. And so now he's really a chocolate daddy.
Which makes sense because, like, they both come off, like
swaggering assholes. So, yeah, we learned that when he comes in, he's kind of just, like, a horny, like, swaggering, like, cool guy.
Yeah.
With his fucking sarong.
He really is, like, living the bachelor life.
Yeah, and so he comes in and he talks about the Lady of Autumn, so Baron's wife. Wow, okay. So,
could you believe?
So he tells a story and tells Feyre, because Feyre's like, what's the deal? And he says back in the war, 500 years ago, whatever, when they were all fighting, she was being attacked by, like, these hounds. Her sisters both died. He found her on, like, a cliff, and he saved her. And I don't really know how Feyre gets this, but she's like, oh, you had an affair afterwards? And he's like, yes. You're like, oh.
And then?
Well, hold on, yeah. And so he's talking about this affair, and he's like, yeah. And then she's like, well, why didn't you ever, like, get her back? And he's kind of being weird about it, and Feyre all of a sudden looks shocked. And Rhys goes into her mind, and he's like, whatever the fuck you just figured out, you better change your face because you look insane. And so, guess what? Holy shit.
Helion.
Feyre goes in Rhys's mind and is like,
tell
Helion?
Me. Yep, tell me.
You want me to say it?
Yeah, you say it.
Yeah. She goes, Helion is Lucian's father!
Oh, come on!
And that's why, so, okay, again, as I mentioned, like, we describe Helion as, like, a, darker guy. He's, like, the sun god, and he's, like, this, like, beautiful man. And
that's the thing with Lucian, right? Yes. He's described as, like, tan, where all his brothers are very, like, pasty, with the red hair.
And they say he's, like, very, like, I don't know, like, not, like, darker skin, but they describe it in a way where, like, when you read it again, you're like, oh my god, they mention it a lot.
That, like, he looks a little different.
Yeah, and, like, Lucian's, like, I think it is things like deeply tanned or, like...
Yeah, and they even mention his powers, too. Like, he doesn't have the typical powers of what would be expected from Autumn. They're not as strong.
Right, like, they're from his mom's side, so he's a little bit.
Yeah.
And so in this, right, so Rhys is like, oh my god. He's like, how did I not realize this? Like, and Feyre's like, they look exactly alike, Like, they have the same nose.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so they're talking about this, and Rhys is like, that means that Helion's sole heir is Lucian. So we don't know what's going to happen.
What's going to happen with that? Meanwhile, Helion is still standing right there. Yeah, and they're having this whole conversation.
Rhys is also, like, floored. But yeah, so that's a big reveal we learn. Again, we don't know what happens with that, but that's, like, a huge thing. And so then that makes sense, right? That makes sense why the Lady of Autumn stayed with Baron, because she's trying to protect her son.
Mm-hmm.
That's why he never got her back, because she chose to stay with Baron. Also, that explains why Lucian is the most hated son.
Mm-hmm. Do you think they know?
I think so. That's what Feyre alludes to.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, that's why.
They know something's off.
I also think, and that's why she says too, like, oh, that makes sense why Lucian is, like, the Lady of Autumn's, like, prize son. Like, she dotes on him because that's her only child, like, the man she truly loves.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, like, very sad.
Yeah.
Because imagine you could have Helion and you were with fucking
Baron. Yeah.
Oh, God. I'd be like, time to go.
Yeah.
Honestly, pack your bags and go live with Helion and Lucian. Like, what is the deal? Why not? Like,
I'm interested to know. I wonder if that ties in with Eris and his story of what we don't know.
Because Eris does also mention at a certain point when he was talking about the Moor thing, they also brought up that day that Lucian's girlfriend was killed.
Yeah.
And Eris was like, you know nothing about that day. Like, I got him to the Spring Court border. Like, I helped him escape.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I don't know. Eris definitely... I'm really intrigued. I really do like Eris. I think, and she writes him that way. I think that most people probably do.
Mm-hmm.
If not, if you don't like him, you know something more is going on, and you know it's not what it seems.
Yeah.
So I think everyone's kind of aware of that.
It's like when Rhys is playing the bad guy, but he's really the good guy all along.
And so, of course, I'm laughing at this because, of course, Fair's having this realization, and guess what? Nesta busts in because everyone has to bust in.
Yeah, so Nesta comes in, and she's like, "We have to go." And Fair's like, "What are you talking about?" She's like, "Okay, Elaine, calm down." And Nessa's like, Nessa's like, "No, like something doesn't feel right. Like I'm telling you, we have to go." And Fair's like, "Nessa, go lay down. Everything's fine. We're fine. Everything's gonna be good."
Yeah, and she tells her, like, I'll have the Bat Boys go check.
Yeah.
And they do, and they come back and they're like, I don't know. They're like, nothing's wrong. And Feyre even says, she's like, we knew better than to tell her, like, nothing was wrong, but, like, we can't find it. Like, we don't know what's wrong.
Yeah.
They believe her, but they just literally can't find it. And so Nesta goes to bed, and then I guess they're like, let's just continue hanging out. So Helion stays, and now Callias and Vivian join. They all have dinner. Very cute. Very nice.
Love that. And so let's talk about how at the end of this dinner, Moore leaves with Helion.
Yes.
In front of Az.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, Rhys goes on to say it's because, like, to Feyre that, because Feyre's like, oh my god, like, what is she doing? And
which I was talking to Hallie about this. I love how Feyre and Rhys go back to their room and, like, debrief on all the gossip. Because, like, when me and Ryan hang out with our friends, we go home and do that. And we're like, can you believe this shit happened? And so Feyre's like, bro, Moore left with him.
Yeah. And Rhys tells her, he's like, no. Az made his feelings, like, a little too known during that meeting. So, like, now she feels weird. So now she has to make it a point to be like, yeah, nothing's ever going to happen. Which again, is a dick move, but...
It's sad. Well, honestly, okay, so there's a part of this story, too, where Rhys tells Feyre that, like, Helion's been trying to have, like, a foursome with Moore, Cassian, and Azriel for years. And Feyre's like, why haven't they done it? But I guess that would not serve the point of Moore trying to get Azriel away from her. So she goes and just has sex with him alone. But crazy, because we haven't really seen any of them sleep with anyone.
No.
Until this point.
Yeah, no one's, like, brought anyone back or anything.
No, like, they go to the bar, and I think they, like, candidly mention that they, like, see people, but we haven't seen them ever seek someone out until now. And so you're like, oh, this is, like, a thing.
Yeah, and then, like, to piggyback off of that, Feyre asks Rhys, she's like, so are Nesta and Cassian mates? Because why are they acting like this?
Yeah, like, they're just having a full debrief on everyone's weird dynamic, and Rhys is like, we don't know yet. He's like, they could be, but until the bond clicks, like, there's no way of us knowing. And he's like, I've also speculated this. So, of course, again, like, this isn't even, like, considered foreshadowing. This is, like, she literally fucking writes it already. So, you're kind of aware, and in next episode, when the war happens, we're going to have a huge Nesta and Cassian section.
Yeah.
Because shit gets really intense.
Yeah, really just...
like, full send. They go from, like, not speaking at all. They barely talk to, like...
being majorly in love. And then they fall off. So it's just, like, a whole lot of back and forth.
It's a lot of whiplash with these two, but we'll get into that. Again, if you guys haven't read it or don't really know the dynamic of the series, Silver Flames is all about Nesta and Cassian, and it's from Nesta's point of view. So we will definitely get into that.
Well, it's like Nesta's redemption arc, right? That's what Silver Flames is.
Right. And we will talk about that.
Cassian's just a player because that's
it's part of their story. Yeah. And so so
here I am waiting patiently for an Azriel story, but it's fine.
I think you'll get it. I do. I think, and we'll talk about that as well.
If not, I'm gonna have to, ditch Az and go for Eris. It's just gonna have to be that way.
I like either one of those for you, actually.
Thank you. I like them both.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And so after their little like couple gossip session about everyone else, because they're like, we're perfect. So let's talk about everyone else.
Yeah.
Shut up, you two.
But
so the next morning, there's another meeting. As they've said, they'll have like, a big meeting where it's very public instead of all these secret, sneaky meetings.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden they're talking, and Nesta starts projectile vomiting and falls over. And you're like, okay. And so she's like laying there, like on the ground, and she's like, something's wrong. And they're like, what? And so they're like, what the fuck? And then all of a sudden they feel like the land shake, but they said like you could tell it was like a tremor across the world kind of thing. And so, guys, we're ending this episode here, but I'm going to leave you with this quote. So the land is shaking, Nesta's vomiting, things are not good. And so Reese all of a sudden turns pale as fuck.
Dun, dun, dun.
And he says, the king of Hybern just used the cauldron to attack the wall. And everyone looks around. They're like, what? And then he continues, the wall is gone, shattered, across Prithian and on the continent. We were too late, too slow. Hybern just destroyed the wall.
And now we are in the throes of battle.
Yeah. Now, guys, that was it. Done. See you later. No, I'm just kidding. Well, we are ending here. But yeah, so next episode, now that's it. The wall is gone, and Hybern has like officially, if they hadn't declared war already, like now, this is it. This is when the war is actively happening.
Winter is here.
Yeah, exactly. It's like that. Honestly, yes, though. It's like that very ominous, dark feeling where you're like,
Game of Thrones had it right, man.
And so, yeah, so we wanted to talk all about this episode with Hewn City and, the High Lord meeting, because so much happened. The dynamics were crazy. And it really got you guys to see the characters and kind of all the relationships. But now, fuck that, because now we're going to war. So let's see how that plays out. Next episode is pretty big.
Well, it's the war, so some crazy shit's gonna go down.
Yeah, I mean, it all ends here. It's all or nothing.
It all ends here.
This
is the end of the story.
Well, and honestly, so we could talk about that for a second, because, again, if you guys haven't read this series yet, the first 3 books are Feyre's point of view, and they focus on the war with Hybern. Like, that's the main story.
Yeah.
So this is going to be the end of, quote-unquote, this main trilogy. After this point, we're going to have the little novella, which is Frost and Starlight. We'll talk about what that's about when we do that episode. And then we go into Silver Flames, and that's all Nesta's point of view. And that's why we're speculating the next book after will be Elaine's point of view. So we get every sister. So honestly, really, this is kind of the end, next episode, of this main story and the main plot and storyline.
Yeah, because then we're introduced to like a whole different storyline and a different type of quote unquote war. It's not like a war, but it's like a battle.
Right. It's just a different plot.
Yeah.
Like all the books in this, the first 2 books led to this point. All the backstories we're learning about Miriam and Draken and all these things, it all comes to a head in this next episode we're going to do at the end of this book. Going forward.
That's the thing, right? I also feel like with this, like these 3 books is like, it's very war based, quote unquote, but like Silver Flames is, I feel like, more magic based, and that leads more into like, it leans heavy into the fantasy aspect of like this series, right?
Right. And I agree. And I think pretty much now, like we just said too, all the points we're hearing now end with this book. Now, going forward with novella and Silver Flames, all of the histories there and the plot points there are separate from the war. It's going to be things going forward where Sarah is taking us in the series.
Yeah, and there's a bit of a time gap too. I think there's like 8 months or something.
Yeah, between, I think, so after this book, there's 8 months, then it's the small one, Frost and Starlight, then it's another 8 months, and then it's Silver Flames. So yeah, we get some breakups, we get some new characters.
Lies, deceit!
We get new characters. So yeah, we're excited. Next book is going to be the war, and then we'll go from there. We'll take us on this crazy journey, because on the second read, we realize really how crazy these next 2 books are and where they're taking us in the mass verse of things.
Yeah, for sure. Like reading it for the first time, I was like, Frost and Starlight, snore. Silver Flames, not giving me what I wanted to have. And then
I liked it almost best. Like I was really into the plot.
After the second reread, I was like, crying and shit. I was like, wow, I didn't know.
Yeah, no. So we liked him a lot better on the second read. So we will talk a lot about that as well. But before we get there, we got to get through this war. So let's see what happens next week. Woohoo!
Woo!
All right. So we will see you guys next week for our final episode of A Court of Wings and Ruin. And we're going to war, guys.
Get ready.
Armor up. Get those swords. All right.
Get those swords.
Get those swords.
Do they fight with swords? How do you say it? Swords?
Swords?
Did I just say swords?
You did, but whatever.
Holy shit.
They don't have guns, Hallee.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's Crescent City. My bad.
Right.
My B.
So, armor, sword up. All right. We'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye.